When I was a child, I loved playing with Lego, and I loved my Lego train set with its blue track. But I moved on, I built bigger Lego things, and then I moved on to different types of train sets. A real surprise was a few years ago, suddenly this book turned up, the Lego Trains book by Holger Mattis. Now, Holger is on the line with me today to have a chat and tell us all about Lego Trains. Holger, blue track, I know that's gone. What Lego Trains? What's the history?
Yeah. Hello, Phil. Thanks for asking all this about Lego Trains, and I'm happy to talk a little bit about it. Blue tracks are not fully gone. I got some of them in my basement, so this is what you might remember from your childhood.
That looks very familiar.
White ties are they are yellowed, and this is the materials. Yeah, it's more than 40 years old, so but it still works. And yeah, this is how Lego started with their train system in the mid 60s last century. So it's it was pretty basic, and of course the colors were toy colors like blue rails. So the real life doesn't have blue rails. And one of my first Lego train sets I got as a child for Christmas is this beautiful big Lego train set, which comes with the blue rails and the steam engine and all that stuff. So this box is, I was happy to get this box a couple of years ago when I entered back into the Lego world as a hobby. So I was able to buy this, actually I think from a guy from England. So he sent over this, and look at this, the way they packed this and all the photographs from the 70s. So
I would have dreamt of that set when I was a child, I must admit. Yeah. But things have definitely moved on now, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. So the history went on, and the 1980s were a big year big time for Lego, when they really turned the Lego toy train into a model railroad system. So they came up with gray tracks. So the rails are gray now, so it's more realistic. And you see in the middle, it's electric power rail, which provides power to the train motor, so you can control all this remotely.
Yeah, because the blue versions, they had a battery in the tender, didn't they? And then suddenly we've got power.
Yeah, they had both. So the 12 volt was also introduced in the end of the blue era, and then they had the remote controlled motors and also switches. So, but it became more realistic when this gray era started, and Lego also added remote control lights and crossings. So it was really working well. But it for a toy it was really complicated. So kids had to really set up a huge layout, many cables on the floor, and so that was a bit of a not that easy to set up. So, but they came up with quite very iconic Lego set. So this is an official Lego set, the 7740, which is built as a German rail fans will know this. This is very typical German train. The original would be more dark red and more sand yellow. So, but Lego back in these days, they had this basic colors, and so they came up with this idea of mixing a real train prototype into a toy, putting some extra features in, like opening doors, and you can remove the roof and see inside, and the minifigure we all love is sitting there. Right. So this is actually a toy still to play with, but it opened up many possibilities, working lights and so on.
So where are we now then? Because looking at the models behind you, there's another big step to come, isn't there?
Yeah, there were many steps, and let's go through it briefly. So in the 90s, they realized that it's too complicated with all these cables, and they came up with the 9-volt era. So they put the they used metal rails, and they put the power in these rails rather than inside the middle extra rail.
So that's just like, that is proper 2-rail track as we would know it from model railway world.
Yeah. So, but they skipped all the extra features like signals and remote controlled stuff. So that was stepping back a little bit. But so this is here's an example from this period, so mid-90s. And it looks a bit, it's kind of Austrian crocodile thing, I think. You may know better the real prototype. And you see the train motor, it got these metal wheels, and so the wheels picked up the power from the rail directly.
So the power is actually working a motor bogie, literally a sort of self-contained unit in the locomotive. Yeah.
So in this area, you just need this like this motor, and that's it. Put it on the rails, and then just turn it on. But you cannot control different speeds on your layout. So you get only one circuit of power in that layout.
Okay.
So then they realized that producing all these plastic and metal tracks is quite complicated and expensive. They started to skip the metal part and replace the rails with only plastic material. So that was in the late 90s or 2000. So then we have a remote control system, which means you have to put everything on board, like the receiver for the remote control, battery box or rechargeable battery box, and the motor as well. So again, there was a big discussion in the community why they're doing this, but it turned out that this so-called power function system works pretty well and opened up so many possibilities, because you don't only get the train motor in this box, you also get other motors, and you can build your own stuff. So using gears and larger wheels and all these things to get even more realistic. So this is when we as Lego fans entered the scene and said, okay, we can use Lego toys as a material for model.
And that certainly seems to be what you do, because I mean, I'm looking behind you. There is a wall of very carefully organized Lego, and some really quite spectacular models in front of you that they're really looking like real locomotives, which must be very challenging with the boxy shape of Lego.
Yeah, that's true. So for example, I just grabbed one of them. So this is a little steamer. So the BR80, I'm not sure, German steamer, you know, that's color scheme from black and red stuff. So of course it's a challenge to really find the elements you need. So, but this is, I think, it's in really deep in the mind of every Lego fan. You have a very good understanding of what kind of shapes are available, what kind of colors are available. And we actually, when we go in the online shopping or out in the shops and looking for a Lego set, we are actually not interested in, is this a Harry Potter Lego set? We are interested in what kind of elements are in there. Oh, look, there's this element. I ever wanted this one in dark red, and it's in there. And so let's grab this box. So, or we go online, and there are other large shops which will sell these elements.
So these are all models that you've created from scratch. Does the community share build instructions or that sort of thing?
Yeah, we do, or yes and no. So actually, yes, there's other Lego fans invented a CAD program to really build Lego virtually on the computer. And of course, you can come up with building instructions. What we see from time to time is that other people are stealing these instructions, building the models, and selling them on eBay for quite a lot of money.
Oh.
Or even Chinese clone companies are making an official product out of this without giving money to the guy who invented the actual model.
That's a whole world that I'd never thought of. But anyway, back to the models you've created. The other one that catches my eye really is the Trans-European Express, the TEE model on behind you.
Yeah.
Because that is again, that isn't a model that I would have assumed would have worked very well with boxy, with square bricks, but it looks spectacular.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this was on my wish list for a long time, and I started. Oops, parts are falling off. Doesn't matter. It's Lego. Can put them back again. Yeah, it was on my wish list, and of course, the shape is so non-Lego because it's not a boxy train. It's a steam-lined diesel engine or diesel train, which runs through Europe in the from the late 50s till the late 70s, something like this. And as said before, we as Lego friends, we have an eye on specific shapes of elements. And one day there was this element showed up. I can show you this. It's a kind of dome thing, or a quarter of a half dome. And I realized, okay, this one is really cool, and this will become the nose of this train. So I try to get 4 of them, and because it's a unit with 2 sections at the end, and then started building this nose around this element. So I put
how long did it take you to come up with the model? I mean, you can't have just woken up and built it.
It depends. So it started like when I was working on the book, and then I had this idea, and only this bit up here was standing there on my shelf for months or even years. And then I thought about the window, how big should that be, and how should that work? And I didn't continue with it. It stood there for a really long time. And then, because the next challenge is this little silver or gray stripe thing, it's a smooth curve which is actually going from this light area down here up to the cockpit. And what you normally do with Lego is you would build it like steps, with the actual bricks, like a brick step. And I said to myself, no, I'm not going to do this. It should look a bit more detailed and more smooth. And this was really a nightmare building this. And yeah, but then finally, I don't know what happened, but I sat on my building table and said, okay, I'll give it another try, and I really want to do it. And yeah, then it took, I don't know, a couple of weeks or weekends to get this done. And yeah, and then finally, and then I had also to build some coaches, and yeah, so in the end it's a quite long train, and maybe you can, if you like, you can link to the video. You can see this one in motion.
We will link to you. I must admit, what we'll do is we'll link to some of the videos as part of this video. To finish, do you have a favorite Lego creation? Must be a difficult choice with all the ones you've done.
Well, good question. There's I think it's not only the one specific. So there are many creations, either official Lego sets or stuff I've built myself, which connects some personal experience with it. So maybe when I really started the Lego hobby as an adult, I saw a newspaper article about a train in Namibia in Southern Africa, and I actually built this train in Lego. And it turned out that the colors match very well with the Lego colors. And these guys from Namibia said, if you build a copy for us, we will fly you down to Namibia, and you can have a ride on the real one. And actually that happened. So this is, of course, something which is super special. And many years ago.
So build Lego and see the world. Well, I mean, thank you. You've really opened my eyes to a whole branch of the hobby that I obviously dabbled with as a small child, but you've opened my eyes to a whole branch of the hobby that I just wasn't aware of. I'm going to have to check out a lot more, have another read of the book, and So thank you very much, Holger, for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. And let me know if you want to know something more about Lego trains.